to
our first podcast.
We've been trying to do this for a while, but we finally decided to set up the camera and get it going.
This is DrunkContext. Work in progress.
DrunkContext, yes. Now let's get to the shits.
So,
What do you want to talk about first?
what do we talk about? Well, we can talk about the football season. We had a basic football season to start off. A lot of crazy nonsense that just kind of, ran the season. But at the end of the day, my favorite team has taken a sixth Super Bowl champions. Six times. We are the champs. I don't know how anyone else doubted otherwise.
Well, I'm not gonna lie, dude. Like, it's impossible to bet against the Patriots when it comes to, like...
How can you at this point?
When it comes to...
How can anyone want to bet against Brady?
Like, the consistency is absolutely ridiculous. And I'm in the AFC. My favorite team is in the AFC. And
what is that favorite team?
And I still have...
What's
the
that favorite
Ravens,
team?
of course. Ravens always. But,
yeah, with, like, no Flacco. Now.
Even though you guys are, like, my competitors, I still have to,
Yeah, going against...
respect it, because I'm a football fan.
Yeah,
At the end of the day, if you're a real football fan, you have to respect it.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, you're really just a hater, to be honest.
That's
Because this is football legacy happening as we, in present time, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're living it right now, and it's crazy.
Yeah, we're witnessing a Jordan era-esque. Although many people would like to spew out, oh, the cheater. But as I like to say, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. So.
You can't. Yeah. I mean, everybody cheats, right? I feel like every team in the NFL cheats in one way or the other.
Of course.
But I feel like with the consistency, it's hard to, like... They can't cheat every year like that to try to win. Like, they can't cheat their way to winning every year like that. That consistency doesn't come with
that narrative
cheating,
that
you know what I mean?
I mean, but we're talking about a narrative that we know has been made up with, at least in my opinion.
I wouldn't say make up. I mean, they did their faults. They're not perfect.
Nah,
They've made the mistakes. They've done things that's
Look, okay.
They've been questionable, like every other team.
But I feel media jumps in and creates narratives that puts a lot of teams or players in precarious situations to what you want. And in the day and the age that we live, where everyone's got an opinion.
But you have to understand this, right? It's not like Kevin Durant. Like, once you are an all-star, you are under the spotlight. Once you are the greatest, especially in this day and age, you are under scrutiny 24/7. Anything that you do wrong is blowing up in proportion.
Absolutely.
So it comes with part of the territory.
Right.
So part of being the greatest is part of being the most hatest.
Yeah.
So, like...
They hate us because they ain't us.
Hate us, but the most,
They hate us because they ain't us. No, I understand that. And
so it's going to come with those, like, people with the microscope, like, oh, look at this little thing and that little thing that they wouldn't pay attention to most other teams, but that comes a part of being the greatest, the greatest team, the greatest player, being in the spotlight of winning so many championships.
Yeah. So let's say in the narrative of Brady and the stuff that he's been through, the suspensions for over Deflategate, which went on 2 years. Eventually, he came back, won of their fifth Super Bowl. But you got other players now. Let's talk about, like, for example, Kareem Hunt, Kansas City Chiefs running back, who got into an altercation right out here in Cleveland, Ohio. Young kid who was in a hotel. He had his little posse, and a lot of people, from what they see from the footage, like I said, especially when narratives are dictated from things that they have seen being recorded, and then something, to me, situations like that get blown out of proportion. Obviously, it's a young man.
But it's also a new era, right? Like, we also haven't, like, fully adapted to the new era of social media and just the constant being watched, I mean, back in the day, the type of stuff the football players did back in the day was nuts.
Oh, yeah, Emmitt Smith.
If they had the spotlight that the guys have now, there was no way they were even going to continue to play football because they were doing crazy stuff. There were a lot of like, you know, but since we're in the transition moment of figuring out the social media and all that stuff, I feel like it's harder for these guys.
Right.
You know?
A
lot of them are trying to figure it out at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, these are young kids who don't really know what to do. A while ago, I heard on the interview, I think it may have been Emmitt Smith, talking about when, back in the 90s, when he was playing, or this might have been Lawrence Taylor, they would go out and they would party on situations, excuse me, my phone went on. And they would party in like situations on a Sunday night after their game, getting altercations. Reporters would be out there, and they would go to reporters and be like, "Yo, man, I'll slip you a couple of dollars. You gotta just make sure just don't see that Monday paper."
Because you also have to remember, reporters were like, they were a small amount. Now anyone could kind of be a reporter. You know what I mean? So back then it was more controllable. You were more able to control it.
Correct.
You know, because there was only a few people reporting on the stories, so it's easier for them to manipulate, like you said, pay off.
Yeah, you know, just be like, "No, man, like, dude, don't put that in the paper, man. Like, just keep my name out of the Monday headlines." And that's something that we don't have that luxury. The things get set up. Like, I mean, it's easier also, I feel like, to set people up to be put in situations now, or you can get your name slandered, or is it?
Well, not to mention, right? I don't know. It's like this to me. Like, the social media thing is great because we get a lot of social justice, whatever the case may be. But people don't get to make mistakes.
No.
Once you make a mistake, you're out the door. There is no coming back. There's barely any repercussions. Like,
Depends on your status.
No, I understand.
I mean, let's say you just start murdering like pedophilia or some shit like that. You know, like some Jared somewhere. But I think there's a certain level of status that can carry you, that people can maybe forgive if it's something small. But if we're just a bunch of unknown guys, and
I feel like it depends, man. Well, that's what I'm saying. Once you're in the status, like football players, that's a status. That's a spotlight. You know, once you're in that spotlight, you really can't make any mistakes.
No, you cannot. You gotta.
You're not allowed to. Even if you're a kid, even if you're younger,
you gotta walk the line.
You know,
but,
like you don't get no excuse of being a kid. Like back in the day, right? When kids were growing up and kids would go out and do stupid shit, parents would be like, you know, that's kids. You know, they grow out of it. You know, when we were young, we did stupid shit too. That's not really applied these days.
Right.
You know, it's more like, oh, you just shouldn't do it at all. You're not like, even if they didn't have someone to teach them, over the case maybe, they just shouldn't do it at all. And that means they should just get ostracized or get kicked out by society in a way.
Well, I mean, that kind of trumps into how we think about prison. Like, what's the difference with that and how,
Don't get me started on that shit.
Yeah, exactly. That we're gonna get there. That, you know, we're trying to make this run, but that's for like another episode. But the idea of how we feel that someone should be punished or someone should be ostracized, but then there are people who be like, oh well, he didn't know any better. If it was something from a long time ago, so there's different situations.
Yes.
Something like, so you have the issues that happens in the present and how do we deal with that. Then you have the issues that are dug up from the past.
Yes. It's like there's now this social justice team out there that is literally going into people's past, searching up for anything that they've done wrong.
Yeah.
Even if you
you
have changed, or if you have, you know, granted, some of the things isn't excusable. Some of it, like for example, with the mayor, with the blackface stuff and all that stuff that they did way back then, some of that is excusable, especially because they're in position of power. You know what I mean?
But I will say that from what I've heard, and people's arguments for this, is that people feel that, oh, it's just Halloween. Oh, he was just a kid. He didn't know any better. Oh, it's just out of good fun. Where's, you know, and then, you know, considering that was something that happened for years. My issue with this man was that, yeah, let's say if...
That's your question.
If he had, wait, hold on. But
okay.
if he had came out and directly apologized, instead of denying it, that's where I would have been like, you know what? Yeah, you were just a college kid. You're a grown-ass man, you know better now. And if you came out and you apologized, you went out your way to deny it before, so you didn't own up to it. You were trying to say
he
that was
flip-flopped.
Yeah.
Yeah, a few times.
Until they absolutely were able to confirm it.
Yeah.
And he's just like, oh shit.
Because the people in the back probably told him, like, they don't really know it's you, whatever the case may be. You know, like, he flip-flopped a few times.
Yeah, I can say and look at this story like, oh yeah, that was fucked up. Yeah, what were you thinking?
Well, my question is this, like, you have this school, medical school, mind you, full of mainly Caucasian people, right? And this is a Halloween party. When you go to Halloween parties and stuff, you usually dress up in something funny, something you admire, something you try to make fun of. That's usually the case. You don't usually dress up. If you're in a school full of Caucasian people and you dress up in blackface, there is no way you did it because you were trying to admire black people. There's no way you did it because you were trying to say, oh, there's no positive way to look at it to me.
Right.
It's obvious to me that you were trying to make fun of it in some way.
The same as
it's a party, you were doing, you and your friends, whatever the case, that's probably what it was.
It's in mocking. It's the same as if someone had dressed up as Hitler. Obviously, that person does not have respect for Hitler. It's doing it in a level of mocking.
Exactly.
But would it spark an outrage, or if it was something that came up later, would it be like, oh, that's outrageous? Yeah. That person did that to mock that person. The same reason why that dude dressing up as a blackface person is doing that to mock said person. It's to create the shock value. At the party. Oh shit, yeah. Like shit. When I dress up, I went as a white character. I'm dressed as Negan for Halloween last year. Was I trying to, did I put my face in white paint to fucking sell?
Yeah.
Because that would have been the shock value.
Exactly.
It would have been like, oh, that's cool. Your costume is Negan and this is whatever. No, but if I put my face
paled your face, it would
be like, yo, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
You got it, people, and the common sense, the time it takes to put the work into that costume. That's something that you would say.
Well, the deeper part about it is that, like, these are medical people. And not to mention, a lot of these medical people, they take care of a lot of black folks. And they take care of a lot, like, you know what I mean? Not to mention, black folks already have a lot of paranoia of, like, they think people are trying to kill them and stuff. The doctors are trying to, like, Well, granted, it's warrant because of past and, there's history of that. But, it's sad to me that this is medical doctors that are doing this. Like, these, like, people who are in these positions should not be doing these things. Like, you deal with these people every day.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, what do you think? What is in your mind when they come into your thing? You know what I mean?
Where's your moral compass?
Exactly.
Where is the moral compass?
Exactly.
But people will try to say, oh, it's just in good fun. But yeah, that's it. That's good fun for you. You don't know what this person was thinking. You don't know this person to suddenly jump and to try to defend it. You can only make assumptions. You can't really, and same in an accusatory.
It just looks wrong. It has to understand. They have to understand that the whole scenario looks wrong.
Right.
It looks terrible. It doesn't look like you were just having fun. It looks terrible. It looks like you knew exactly what you were doing. Yeah. That's what it looks like.
My argument to it is just that would he do that if he was going down in Brownsville, or was he going down East Flatbush in Brooklyn?
Oh no,
or Harlem.
Please.
Is he going to walk down the street in Harlem in a blackface suit? No.
Even if it was all in fun, he wouldn't do it. No.
Especially, these are things that are common sense that people try to defend. But I think that it's really in a moral defense of themselves. It's something that they probably want to do. And it's just like, oh God. It's like, okay, you ever feel embarrassed when you see a story, let's say now, with a brother that that does some shit, you just like, or you hear like, oh God, this news report. Like if there's a shooting or something like that, or God forbid there's a school shooting, or there's anything in a large now garner national attention.
Yeah.
And you don't know who the suspect is, but you just like, God, I hope to God this is not a black man because we don't need that. Because
we already have a huge stigma on us, right? Like, if you're a black man and you dress in a certain fashion, you have, like, appearance matter. You know what I mean? And black people especially, it matters a lot. You know what I mean? In New York, for example, like when we grew up in New York, we used to get pulled over by cops just because Dude, when I started changing the way I dress just because I was growing, like getting older, I realized the cops started treating me differently. And that shit is sad.
Yeah, like let's say, even if it's on a basic speeding ticket, sometimes I'll know I'm wrong, but there's that dichotomy of like, if I got it fitted on versus me just in, my glasses,
Mm-hmm.
I'm dressed for
Mm-hmm.
work,
Mm-hmm.
and and how I approach them. Usually, when I speak to them, that usually you see like the attention for them kind of dissipates over as the conversation goes on.
Because even the way you speak changes their outlook on you too, which is, you're an officer, right? You're a civil servant.
Correct.
So everyone who comes to you, you're not supposed to look at them in any different way. All these people like pay your taxes. That's the reason why you're on the streets.
Mm-hmm.
So it's odd to me that when certain people come up, you're like, you have a different energy towards them. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that needs to change. There was a point where police would actually be involved in the community and people would actually know the officers' names. And, granted, those are more wider communities, but why can't we get to that point where officers have, a lingo with people? Like, when an officer walking down the street, why can't he say hi to a person instead of just standing there looking grill-faced?
Well,
you know what I mean? Like, most of them are, like, standing there just looking angry and ready to take you down, especially if you're not
large
that ilk.
Well, here's the thing that
off a certain ilk, I should say.
That I can see, because like where we grew up in New York. Yeah, even out in Patrick. The way we seen how I've watched all the different communities. I watched people from Staten Island. I watched people from Brooklyn. I watched people from Rhode Island and all over. Mm-hmm. But I've seen like how people are in neighborhoods and how people in the mindsets and how they're it's a community thought. Like, so when you have officers who come from Staten Island, Long Island, Connecticut, coming into New York City, and they get put, they have their community, they have their ways that they're brought up. Then they're put into, let's say, like a more rougher neighborhood of Brooklyn.
And that's usually the case. Most of the cops that was, like, for example, in our neighborhoods in East Flatbush, they mostly live in, like, Staten Island and stuff. They didn't live in our neighborhood.
Yeah, they didn't know anything about.
They didn't really know anything about the hood.
They know from what they see on TV, what they see on cops, and this like, there's a level of violence, there's drugs, and this is going on. This place is inherently bad. This isn't just like my neighbor. When in reality, in their own neighborhoods, they got fucking meth fucking houses being built in their nice little suburbs and shit like that. And then they're surprised. Oh God, he was so nice. I never knew that was going on. Just because we're in like we're more rougher neighborhoods, we're a lot more transparent. We had to be more transparent. We need to, we want to show people what we're about. It's either to be tough or like I said,
the thing is, the cops are supposed to be the leaders in the neighborhood. Like, if they are coming off with a negative energy, no one in the neighborhood is gonna you're supposed to be the leaders. You're supposed to be the example. Like, if you're not gonna be the example, no one else in the neighborhood they're not gonna follow your lead. You know what I mean?
Like, so your idea is basically like how
be the bigger person. That's why you're a cop.
Yeah, like you want, like, okay, let's say now you got like the Avengers or something like that. You think of cops as like these people that are supposed to be policing, breaking up stuff, and that's at least from a child's point of view. When you're a child growing up, they see police officers as, in a sense, heroes. They are heroes. Yeah.
Firefighters. Yeah, I respect. The job is a tough job. I understand it.
It's a hard job.
It's a really hard job. I totally understand it. You have to be in your guard, on point all the time.
But the hard reality is that there are things that these officers do see that will fuck up a person.
No, it is.
And it hardens them, and especially when they see it consistently. Some of these kids do come in bright-eyed and bushy-tailed as young officers, thinking that I'm going to change the world.
This is why I feel like the training is flawed. I mean, I don't know much about officers training, but I feel like it has to be flawed in a way. I feel like they need to give them more of an experience of what they're really dealing with instead of just putting them it's like just throwing them into the lion's cage. You know what I mean? And a lot of them have to figure it out over time. Right.
Well, this is why they're trying to raise the age on recruitment. Because 18 years old, and you're throwing, you give them 6 months of academy training, or 3 to 6 months of academy training.
And a lot of power.
Yeah, a lot of power.
Yeah.
And some of these kids go through some of them do, like I said, they come in bright, and then they deal with like the first, like a crackhead. And these are people with mental issues, people that are just not the norm, you know. Versus like, and then or they see kids, or that's someone disrespects them, and they're like, they get salted because you know he took that he or she took that position, and let's be real, a little bit for validation, a little bit to I'm sure to change the world, but a lot of it is a bit of their own personal validation to have respect amongst their peers. And when you got people that are coming, that when you go into a neighborhood, let's say now you're this Connecticut kid, and you grew up in this beautiful suburbs, but you know you're like, you know, I want to change the world, you know, I want to get into criminal justice, I want to go in for that, and you start to see the stuff, and you see, let's say the first guy, you be like, hey man, what's going on? You come in with a smile on your face, man, fuck you, motherfucker, fuck you, honky, fuck you, fucking pig, and you're that level
change your whole experience.
Yeah, like that, and that's just some of the smaller stuff. Not coming into like the harder shit that some of these guys see.
Because they're also people, right?
Yeah. And
so at the end of the day, they still have limits. They still have, like, you know, so much they could take probably. That's why I feel like, I don't know how often they give them evaluations and stuff like that, but I feel like it needs to be rigorous, because it's a tough job, bro. And I don't know, they probably need to get paid more. There's a lot they need to change, bro, because, I don't know, something needs to happen, you know?
Well, society needs to work on their adjustment. So, that's all we got for you today. This has been our show, Drunk Context.
Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe.
And don't forget to hit that little notification bell that we got right here on the top.
Got a lot more to come for you guys. Holla at your boy.
Stay tuned.